Okay. Sorry, we're a few minutes late, but we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by 15 seconds of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ryan Hartley,
Here.
Ethan Maple,
Here.
Bill Niemeyer,
Here.
Chad Melinda,
Here.
Terry Reed.
Here. Thank you, Yvonne. And thank those of you that are attending this evening. We have a full evening, and we have guests here to educate us. And so with that, we have public comments, 3-minute time limit per person for items on the agenda only.
Chris Wilmot, Cedar Creek Estates. I want to acknowledge so many people here tonight. I'm glad you guys came out. This is a property tax message. As I'm sure all recognize this. So on here, I pay every year $768. Now you all, some of you pay more, some of you pay less. This is our money. And so I want to encourage you guys, when it comes time for the public hearing, to come up and talk about the budget. But we've had a chance to look at it. I want to acknowledge Ethan Maple, since he was championing that this got out on the website. So we had a chance to look at it at 2.5 years I've been coming to meetings regularly. I've yet to see a budget. So I'm really glad I had the opportunity to look at this and I'll have some comments at that time. Thank you guys for coming out and encourage you during the public hearing piece. The other question I have is we're talking about this is the resolution that I looked at for the sewer plant or the sewer bond. Are you guys going to be signing this tonight? I know, Ethan, we talked earlier that there's going to be a public hearing on this at a later time. But are you guys going to sign this and commit us to a $20 million bond before we have that public hearing?
We're going to vote on it. We'll be voting on it tonight.
There would be no commitment. What is required tonight is a resolution to move forward with the application to the IFA. They have a special program for essentially buying sewer bonds at lower rates, and to get on their calendar, they want the council to make basically a preliminary determination tonight. But this is not the final bond ordinance or the rate ordinance. That will all be done after the public hearing.
Okay, so are they going to be signing this document?
Yes.
Okay. That's a big concern. I'll say that for the record. So, I appreciate it. We're going to have a public hearing on that later. And look forward to that. That's all I have.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else? Okay. Claims, accounts payable vouchers. Do I have a motion to approve as presented APVs 26872 through 26930?
I'll make the motion to approve claims APV number 26872 through 26930 as presented in our backup materials.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Motion approved and second. Any discussions? All in favor? say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to approve APVs 26872 through 26930. Adoption of minutes. Do I have a motion to adopt the town council minutes from September 4th, 2024 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion approved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to approve minutes from September 4th, 2024. There's no old business, new business. We will open to the public hearing for the 2025 budget. And
Would you like me to get up and say a couple of words?
I didn't know if it was you or Yvonne.
So I'll make a motion that we temporarily suspend the council meeting and open the public hearing for the 2025 budget.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Wait, is there a second? You second?
I second.
Ethan did.
Okay.
Why not?
All right.
You don't need to,
Suspend.
but if you want to, you can.
Ted said we don't need to.
We don't need to, but I'd like to.
Suspended.
Really just-
Oh, discussing? Oh, vote.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Approved. You may proceed.
I apologize. I'm a creature of habit. We've
Welcome
done
to the
that-
public hearing.
I've heard it done both ways.
We've done that for 5 years. I don't want to miss a beat.
Good evening, Jared Hall, Cronin Associates, financial advisors to the town. I have, before you guys have, you have 2 sheets, so there's a single page and the 3-page. We have discussed, met, gone through it. I will applaud you and the management of the town, the department heads. You guys have been involved up to this point, right, in getting these numbers, lots of discussion, talking about the future of the town and planning. So, and I believe everybody's had a chance. It's been up on the website. There was one minor change from what was posted on the website, and it's basically we consolidated 2 line items. So they were very specific. One was for senior services, and the other was for, I forget it was
Child advocacy.
child advocacy. Thank you. And we combined those. The aggregate amount is the same, and we called it community support. So it's more vague when the time comes. So you choose to spend those funds. But other than that, like I said, we've been through it. Just a couple of highlights, kind of for the record. The salaries included in here generally across the board include a 5% increase for all the staff. We did an increase in the community crossing matching grant. That's a program that you guys have participated in for quite a few years, in which you put up 25% and the state matches 75% for road rehabilitation and paving. And you have the funds, you have the money in the appropriate funds that are frankly restricted to those types of projects. So we definitely want to leverage that opportunity to keep making progress on that. Also included is the addition of a town laborer that we've talked about. There's a need for kind of a general purposes person, to take care of stuff around the town, and then also an additional police officer. Obviously, the community's growing. There's a demand for police officers, and we were able to make that work in the budget. Really, it's a balanced budget. We're in good shape. You guys have worked numbers, and we're able to get, I think, everything you guys need. And so, as far as tax rates go, I think that's something people want to know. For 2024, your total corporate tax rate, so that's the town of New Palestine, was 0.396. For 2025, I've got it coming in. We've got the certified assessed values at 0.3868. So it's actually about a penny decrease. There will be a slight variation within like 3 decimal places once the state approves it, but I'd say I expect it to be relatively stagnant, but I'm showing an actual reduction. So, you guys have any questions or anything else you'd like me to cover?
Anybody have
Thanks for all
questions?
your work and help with this. I know
Absolutely.
we asked you a lot of questions,
No,
sent things back and forth, so I appreciate it.
Countless hours that we've been asking him to sharpen his pencil, and because we're just trying to be the advocate for the town. Okay. We're going to open it up for public comments. Again, 3 minutes per person to comment on the proposed 2025 budget. No one? Okay. All right. Oh,
One, Terry.
sorry, Chris.
So I've got a couple questions. One is on the first page. The line, so there's a health insurance line item, which is 134. Who's the vendor for that?
Anthem.
Do we do any type of competitive process every year, every other year, or every 5 years, or?
We look at it to see what they offer us every year and get a couple of different options. And, you know, we can bid it out to others as well. I have been hesitant to do that if what Anthem shows is in line with what we've had, because people hate to have to change doctors and, you know, have their health insurance changed drastically. It becomes a real upsetting situation. So if we can keep it consistent, that is my preference, and that's what the council's preference has been. So, but yeah, we do look at it every year. It's never just accepted as is.
Okay, so there's another line item about insurance, and I don't know, I don't see it here in my notes, but is there any other insurance that we have? So that's the,
341. That's what we're looking at. 341.
okay. Okay, yes, that's correct.
I'm sure.
What
we
is
can-
that insurance? It just says insurance.
That's your liability and workers' comp and
Okay.
auto insurance.
Who's the vendor with that?
Through Shepherd Insurance, and currently insured with EMC for auto and liability and IPEP for workers' comp.
Do we, same thing there? Do we do that on a
That's, yes,
competitive basis every
Yes.
other year or every 3 years?
yes, sir.
And Shepherd is a broker, so they are constantly shopping different carriers.
So we look at that every 2 years?
Every year.
Every year, okay. Okay. The other question, so another question here, 553,000 for professional services, engineering, financial consultant. Is that Commonwealth or is that?
That's a
Is there a vendor on
combination of
What's your line
Cronin
item, Chris?
Associate, and
Line 317.
317, yeah.
that's for a whole lot of professional services combined. So that's your payroll company, your financial assistant, your engineering firm, looking at, you know, whatever issues
Okay,
or
thank,
questions we have.
okay, thank you. I noticed vehicles showing up in a number of cases. Maybe this is a question's already been discussed with you guys. 445, obviously, is a police vehicle. But then there's also a 432 vehicles, and then another vehicle 432. There's two different 432s, one for 30,000, another for 70,000, and then 445 is a police vehicle. So what are those other vehicles?
That is because in fund accounting, which is what happens through in this municipal setting, you get funds from different pots of money in the state or in local community or the feds, and it comes in different ways, and you can it's specified on how it can be spent. So we have money coming in from various places. So in here, in each fund, you know, vehicles could come up in different places. And Jared probably has better wording than I do for it. I always say you have funds coming in from different places than they are specified by the state what you can spend on.
And maybe I can address the basis of the question first. So there's three: one's vehicle equipment, one's vehicle, one's police vehicle. So the situation that we're afraid that we'll find ourselves in is that we'll be behind and have to make multiple purchases, right? So right now, one of our street vehicles is a 2003, 2004. It's almost 20 years old. So we're looking to replace that and then continue to make sure that we're investing in that so that we don't get into a point where we got to buy 3 police vehicles at the same time or 3 street vehicles at the same time.
So we may not necessarily spend this.
Yeah,
That's
so-
what we're trying to be a little conservative with our budget.
Government funding is hard because if we, and we've all learned more about this in the last 9 months now than probably it's a lot to learn. But if we do not propose a budget for it and we want to spend the money, then we have to get a special permission from the state of Indiana and DLGF in order to do that, right? So now this does not say that every single one of these proposed items we're going to spend to the cent. That's saying we can spend up to this. DLGF, we send this to DLGF, they say, okay, that makes sense. Your budget, makes sense. You guys you're good to go.
So some of this funding comes from the state now, from property taxes from local citizens.
Yes.
I can just address your two questions. So they both, right, accurate, correct. So for example, if you look to the left of your sheet, there's a fund name. So 2209 late edit, for example, that's one of them. Oh, yeah. It's the $70,000. Okay.
Third page.
Page 3.
Yep, late edit is an income tax. It comes from the state. You all pay income taxes, and it goes to the state, and then it comes back and gets dispersed to the community. That money comes into Ron's office, quick treasurer. It says late edit, and this fund, it can only be used for like capital, capital. Okay? So we identify a need, and that money can only be used there. So that's where, to Chad's point, budget is the ability to spend. It's not
Rule.
signing.
Right.
So for example, so what we do is we go and we figure out what the account needs, and then we figure out the best resource available to fund that.
So that 70 grand comes from the state.
Yeah, that's income tax.
I think that-
So then CCD was the other one, vehicle and equipment. That is a property tax. That is a fixed tax rate. It's not levy controlled. We don't raise and lower that. So it's 5 cents. AD goes up, more money comes in. It's just a fixed tax rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one was in public safety lit, which is, so lit is local income tax. So PS, public safety, sorry for all the acronyms, but that's also income tax, and it has to go in there, and that can only be used on public safety expenses.
And that's also from the state.
Yeah, well, it comes from the state, like the Department of Revenue, the state, and it goes to the county, and then the county disperses it.
Okay. So it's not property taxes. Right?
No, it's not, it's income tax.
So now, is there anything on here that comes from the federal government?
No.
Okay, the number you also mentioned, 0.396%. That's a property tax percentage? that goes
That's
to-
the tax rate, so
Right.
0.396 per $100 of assessed value.
Okay, and that's what goes to the city.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. There were some people that came in. We were commenting on the public hearing for 2025 budget. Anyone have any comments on that? Okay. All right.
I do want to just circle back on one thing. So there is a lot of like vehicle and equipment. For our police vehicles, there's a whole upfit that has to happen on those as well. So you see police vehicle and then police vehicle and equipment, and you're like, oh my gosh, how expensive is this? Well, you got to buy the vehicle, then you have to outfit it with the lights, all the extra things, safety precautions as well. This vehicle that we're one of the ones that we just purchased is to replace our K9 vehicle, which takes additional funds. This one I don't believe is being used for that, Yvonne, because that's being taken in the 2024. But there's a lot of extra things that go into that as well.
And the kennel will actually be paid out of the canine donations.
Even better. But, thank you.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to close or suspend? No, we're not suspending, just close. Can we close the
I'll
public
make a
hearing?
motion that we close the public hearing on the 2025 budget and reconvene the town council meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Motion approved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, public hearing closed. Next up is bond council engagement letter for sewage works revenue bonds, series 2024. Brian Bosma. Who's
You want me
presenting?
to speak to that?
Yeah.
So Brian submitted a bond council engagement letter. Costs of his fees would be capitalized with the bonds, not payable out of the town's budget. So it's just put into cost of issuance and paid out, amortized over the term of the bond. As you know, he's already started working on this stuff and has been for the last couple of weeks trying to get it teed up so we can present a good plan to the council, to the public, and to the IFA, which we'll be discussing in length both at this meeting and the next three.
So we need a motion to approve.
I will make a motion to approve the bond council engagement letter as presented in our backup materials.
I will second.
Motion approved and second. Any discussion?
Sure. I'd like to point out that within the letter, this is a flat fee of $82,500 on a more than $20 million bond project. And I used to work with Ice Miller when I worked at the Port Commission, and we did quite a few bond projects. And I just want to note that the fee that's being charged for this bond is a fraction of what I've seen through other law firms. So, I just want to point out that that was negotiated, it's reduced, and it is one heck of a good rate for us.
Thank you. All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Hold on, I got a
Nope.
question. I'm going through all the pages of all the things that I've read. Is this the place where we are identifying a suggested bond length?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I must be looking at the next document then. My apologies. I'm good.
Now all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carried to approve council engagement letter, Town of New Palestine Sewage Works Revenue Bond Series 2024. Okay, next presentation of sewer rate study, Jared Hall with Cronin Associates and Al Stong with Commonwealth Engineers.
My name's Al Strong, Commonwealth Engineers. I really can't speak to the rates, but I can speak to the project, so I'll just provide a brief overview. In late 2021 or early 2022, we started the planning phase of this project. And we had identified that your wastewater treatment plant was under capacity from a flow and a loading standpoint, which meant improvements were required. So the town council at the time decided to engage us with a planning study. We had identified the alternative improvements, and we submitted to the state revolving loan fund for consideration for financing. When we provided our cost estimate at that time, it was recommended that we proceed with one phase of the project, which was the treatment plant, and for a reduced capacity treatment facility. Normally, we designed the 20-year. This facility is phase one, which on the most aggressive growth projections, it would be 5 years. The least aggressive growth projections, maybe 14 to 17 years. Of course, growth projections are pie in the sky. It's what you think your growth is going to be. But the approach that we are taking is to put the facilities in place so that we can obtain the customers, so we can mitigate the rates, keep them as low as possible, because there are other improvements that are required, and we can't afford those improvements without increasing our rates unless we have additional customers. So the project we're proceeding with is a 1.54 MGD wastewater treatment plant. The existing plant is a 0.4 MGD facility. In late 2021, our maximum month was 0.47. So we were over capacity at that time. And the only way that we're meeting treatment is just the natural conservatism built into the design. So you can gather this project has been ongoing now. This will be at 3 years when we bid this project and commence with construction. Probably close to 5 years once we flip the switch. So nothing happens quickly, but we're at the point now where we can look to proceed once the rates are approved, to bid the project, commence with construction, obtain the additional users, and keep the rates as low as possible for the rest of the folks. So Jared can speak to the rest as far as rates.
Think so.
Thank you.
Jared Hall again. I usually present twice in the same. Yeah.
Well, you're just used to talking to us all the time, so.
You guys have a packet on your desk in front of you. There's a lot of information in there because this is the comprehensive rate study, which, as Al mentions, the project's been going on for quite a while, and now we're here at the point of decision and action. In an effort to kind of get to the point, I'm gonna skip over probably the first 5 or 6 pages. It's a lot of historical data. If you have questions, wants to talk about it, I'd be happy to talk about it at any point. But if you want to go ahead and get to page 7. This is, so we start with what's called sources and uses. So per Al and his team, the project he just mentioned, they have estimated that the project cost is $18,332,326 ish. Yeah. And so we've taken that number, and we actually have the project out for bid. You guys are getting bids October 23rd, so that's going to be finalized at that time. See down below there under administrative and issuance costs, you've got the engineering and the different components that are required to get the project complete, as well as the legal, financial, administrative, one of which you passed the engagement letter for, so that's already included in all of this. So it brings the total to $21,488,589. The town has committed their American Rescue Funds and $573,589. They've also put $1 million of capacity. So all of the growth that the town has experienced the last couple of years has generated tap-in capacity fees, in which the point of those is to fund capacity projects, which that is what this project is. So we're utilizing those funds in this project. It leaves a gap, as you will, of $19,915,000. So that's what we're looking to fund through bond proceeds. Any questions? If you want to go ahead and go to the next page. And I'll try and get through this as straightforward as possible, but stop me and correct me. So, and Ethan touched on it a little bit earlier. We're going to talk about here after I go through this is there's some different financing structure options. For this illustration, it contemplates a 20-year level debt service. So it's kind of the shortest payback, but as you'll see, it has a different rate impact as some of the other options. So what we're proposing is a two-phase implementation. So phase one, you have to adopt rates based on your customer base today that is sufficient to pay that cost. I think everybody here probably knows there's going to be some growth within the near future. There's going to be customers coming on the system likely. That's great, but what we have to assume today, and the bondholders require us to do, is assume that the customers that are here paying their bills today are the ones that the rates have to be to support that. One thing we're going to try and do is reevaluate the rate. We can reevaluate the rates between now, frankly, at any time. So as growth comes online, we can reassess the financial position of the utility and make adjustments accordingly in a positive way. So with that being said, we put together a two-phase scenario. So the first phase would go into effect, what I would basically say is immediately. And we've designed that so that the rate would be sufficient to cover the required operation and maintenance expense. So your lights, your salaries, all the things that it takes to run the utility, cover that. You have a 2017 bond outstanding, so you've got to make sure you meet the requirement to pay for that bond. And then while the project's under construction for the first couple of years, we'll have reduced debt service. So we can kind of capitalize on that opportunity to keep the rates at a manageable level. And then you'll see there's what's debt service reserve funding and debt and bond coverage, which is a requirement in order to sell the bonds. Basically, the purchaser of the bond wants to know that not only do you have $1 to repay $1, but you need to have $1.25 to pay the $1. They want to. It's got to be a little margin there. So that's what we call bond coverage. It's working capital. It's used to cover unexpected expenses. So I'm gonna kind of run down that phase one real quick here. So we take the test year, which was 2023. Our operating expenses were $964,329. We've gone through, and you can see that on page 6. We've gone through each line item, and we've looked at kind of each line and projected out as best we can what we think the expenses are going to be. And that resulted in an increase of about $139,509. Your debt service on your 2017 bonds is $223,600. And the debt service for that first part of on the 24 bonds is $745,212. There will be a requirement to fund what's called a debt service reserve over the first 5 years of the bond. And this is with any bond. You have to set aside 1 year of debt service on the bond. And so that's where that $287,386 comes into play. Take that for the first 5 years, and it's about $1.4 million, which is the total debt service. And then we have the bond coverage working capital. So on that phase one, we have a revenue requirement. So we need to generate $2,537,236. You go down right now, we're in our test year, we brought in $1,633,725. We did account for, because in 2023, you actually added from January to December 163 customers. So while they weren't paying all year, we went through and calculated if those 163 were paying all year, we should get credit for that because now they're going to be paying going forward. That would be another $71,631. You've got 2 communities that are under construction right now, Willow Ridge, Ashton Acres. There's a little table down there at the bottom. Combined, there are 123 what we call EDUs, or equivalent dwelling units. So that's $98,000 a year in revenue. Stormwater, there's no, we're not planning to adjust the stormwater rate, but we can use those revenues to repay the bonds. So it's $102,976. Same adjustment for those additional customers, but it's $2,444. And then you've got what we call non-operating receipts, penalties, and interest. So that total comes to $1,974,849. The gap between the two is that $562,387, or 31%, which would translate to a rate of $87.88. So that's what we propose for the phase one. So it would effective November of this year. And then you'll see in phase two, we've got that effective November 1, 2026. So the project's completed. We've now kind of started repaying the bonds fully. So we kind of start at the top. We have the O&M, we have the adjustment, we have the 2017 bonds. You see the increase in the 2024 bonds. That's the full in, the maximum debt service in any given year, $1,456,833. And then you have the bond coverage, the respective bond coverage, that $287,000 and the $317,000. Total requirements $3,389,357. Same thing. We've got our test year revenues of $1.6 million. We've got those additional users at the 71,000 and the 98,000. We now have, because it's putting rates on rates, we have the $562,000 of additional revenue that we generated from the phase one rate increase, and then the stormwater and the non-operating. So that's total $2,537,236, leaving a funding gap, as you will, of $852,000, or 36%, which equates to $119.53. That was a lot, and So, any questions, or you want me to restate or elaborate on anything?
I know we've gone over it. And over it. Anyone else have any questions for Jared?
I think to try to help, is there a simple way to say phase one, phase two? Like, why is phase two
Okay.
an increase? Could we?
So,
Because
well,
that's going to be the number one.
So the idea and the objective, and I touched on it earlier, is phase one is we get that into place. I mean, we have to raise the rates to a level that revenues are sufficient to meet the requirements. Okay. The idea here is that if there's growth, this community experiences real growth, we can come back. This is conservative because I have to be. But I can't go out there and say there's a field over here and they're looking to put 200 homes. Like, it may happen, it may not happen, but we can't sell bonds. Nobody in here would buy those bonds, right? So, but if real growth does happen, one thing we're very much aware of is we're going to be watching this thing like a hawk, because any opportunity that we can to adjust these rates and get them right, that's the plan for phase two. I can't stand here and say that's going to happen or it's not going to happen. I'm just telling you that our intent and the purpose and the goal here is to take that approach.
So if there was a area that was going to build housing that we are not using for this,
Yes.
but those houses get built before 2026,
Yes.
that does have the ability to lower this second
Yes.
number. Thank you.
So we're not, I know we have to approve rates, but we're not locked into the second rate because of the possibility.
You will be locked into the second rate until you amend that rate.
Okay.
Ted, as the attorney in the
We
room,
can't make it higher, but we can make it, like, we don't have to approve it. We don't
You
have
have
to
to
change the
approve it at-
ordination to go lower,
you have to approve it at these levels in order to proceed with
Right.
bonds.
but we don't have to go all the way up to it.
Well, no, we have to commit to what's here.
Yeah,
But
Until you
but-
can adjust.
if before 11/1/2026 in this scenario, if we said, hey, we added 300 additional homes, Jared, what's the income there? Okay,
Right.
what's that offset
That's
for
a-
the second phase?
That's real. It's real impact. And we've kind of run, I don't want to say what it is, but like 300 homes come online, it's going to make a big impact. So in January of 2026, come back and say, hey, look, it's done, it's built, it's online. You can come back and you all can do the same proceedings that we're doing, but go the other way. It doesn't happen that often, but it's actually happened. McCordsville did it. They were in a similar situation to you guys years ago, and this is a situation where you have to build a plant. Well, you're out of capacity, but you got to build a plant that's going to support it, because you don't want to come back here in a year and do it again because you just met the bare minimum kind of thing. So, but I do think we'll definitely be looking at this in the near future. That answer your question?
You did. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no other question. We'll go on to page 9. This is the illustration. So we have what we call indicative rate interest rates. So from SRF, I believe they're selling their bonds because it's kind of a pool program, which is related to the other document that was referenced earlier. And so these numbers will get trued up, but right now this is the rate scale they gave me to use. And as you'll notice, these numbers match what we just talked about. So this is the level 20-year debt service structure. And then kind of really more importantly is page 10, which shows it's called the combined debt service. So it has the debt service on the 2017 bonds, which are already outstanding. And then I pulled in the 24 bonds. And then if you look at that far right column, that is the combined debt service for both of the bonds. And you'll see if we look at, 24 through 26, it hovers around that 957,000. And then it goes up to the 1,670,000, all the way until 2038, in which those 2017 bonds go away, and then the total debt service drops down to the 1.4 million. But we have to set rates based on the maximum combined debt service, which is the second 1.6 number. It's 1,679,722. So and then now to Ethan's, I think what Ethan was referring to. So like I mentioned, you just illustrated a 20-year level debt service. What that means, we took that bond and we created effectively level debt service for the entire life of it over the 20 years. There are mechanisms, and we use them often, what's called a wrap structure. So if you look back at page 10, and try not to bury you guys in too many papers, I really put this in here because you guys can visualize it, but basically what we would do in a wrap structure is you would wrap the 24 bonds around the 2017 bonds to create that total column would be level all the way through kind of the final maturity of the 24 bonds. So it defers principal till later, but it reduces the annual burden, which therefore translates to the ratepayers. There's a cost. There's an overall net interest cost increase by doing that. But it's an option, and I think it's important that you guys know what that is. That is something that we need to decide on tonight. So there's no rate adoption. There's no bond borrowing adoption. What I have to do as your financial advisor, I have to go to SRF and tell them the town wants a 20-year level, 20-year wrap, and then also I put in there a 25-year level and a 25-year wrap. And so based on my conversations that we've had, because we've talked about this, you guys have contemplated it from all aspects. What is the impact of the user fee? What is the total debt service? So like you see the 30,573,000, that's principal and interest. So that's everything. And then you can see the max combined debt service. Obviously, we defer it out. We lower the combined debt service, which you'll see lowers the user fee. but it defers what we're paying back. So there's a cost overall. But I don't have a recommendation because this is kind of there's not a right or wrong answer in my opinion. I mean, there's trade-offs. So you can see and these numbers these numbers are going to change a little bit, right? The two things we don't have is construction bids, and we don't have interest rates. Al can speak to the construction bids and that side of it. Pretty confident the interest rates that are in here should be conservative. In my experience, 90% of the time they are. And then obviously today it's going to be day and market. And they're going out to sell next week. So this is off an old scale. So, but relative to one another, they should be the same. So a wrap versus a level buys you about $3.50 on the average user fee. And then a 20 versus a 25 year is about $9. Just kind of to simplify it. And the last page is just the rates schedule. But,
Right.
I'm happy to answer any questions or explain anything else.
Al, can I ask you a question? You have phase one projecting to be sufficient for anywhere between 5 to 14 to 17 years. For it to get to capacity, how many more users would have to come on board? Because we're talking about 3 times the amount that we currently have. Do you have an idea on that? And kind of the reason why I'm asking that is, if it's at capacity, then obviously our users have gone up. And what does that do with the money available to expand should that come? Should phase 2 need to come?
Sure. We designed this for a phased increase. So we do have the ability, this is a sequencing batch reactor. We're anticipating the addition of one more reactor. So the first phase is the most expensive phase for the capacity you get. It's going to cost less per 1,000 gallons for the next phase. So that would be a good thing if we were able to max this out as quick as possible for you, because we would be getting the revenues. You utilize an EDU equivalent dwelling unit, and that's 310 gallons per day. So if your existing plant was at 0.47 million gallons per day for a max month, let's just say it's 500,000, so that leaves you about 1 million, probably about 3,200 homes. What you got?
Currently have about 1,800.
Oh.
So 32 on top of the 18.
Right.
So you would 200%.
And so that would allow us to significantly be able to absorb phase 2 if we reach that level of users.
If you reach 90% of that level of users, then you're in the position to where you need to look to construct the next improvement.
Right.
Al, I know you guys have done your homework on trying to get these numbers as close as you can, but I know what happened with Greenfield, and I know they were in a unique situation. But when they went to expand their plant, the bids were significantly higher than what expected.
Yes.
What happens? We obviously don't know what they're going to bid here.
We utilized the bid history. So when Greenfield came in, that was kind of the perfect storm with respect to timing and restrictions with materials and restrictions with labor. These prices factor in the increases that we have seen. So this plant back in the day before we started seeing these inflationary impacts would probably be a $12 to $14 million plant. It's an $18.3 million plant now. We're seeing anywhere from a 30 to 40% increase in our industry. We've designed the most sequencing batch reactors in the state of Indiana. We've bid probably a half dozen in the last 2 years. I'm confident that my numbers are good. They're as good as any numbers that you're going to get based upon contractor bid prices. So I can't control the contractor's bids, but we had a good turnout and I'm encouraged with the contractors that came, that it's gonna be a competitive bid. Back during Greenfield, we had 2 bidders. We had projects, a year ago where we had no bidders because there were no contractors. Here we had 4 or 5 contractors show up. So this is a desirable project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Any other questions for Al? No? So what are we thinking?
If just to get a conversation going, I'd like to make a motion that we move towards the 20-year level.
I'll second the motion so that we can discuss it.
Thanks.
Okay, motion approved and seconded. Let's discussion.
Well, I just did some real quick math. And as tempting as it is to, we have 4 options that are laid out here. The option, the 20-year level, the maximum rate that we're contemplating right now for phase 2 is $119.53. That's a significant increase. I understand that completely. But if you go to the option, it's a 25-year wrap that lowers the rate from $119 to $107. So that's a $12 a month difference. If you go that route, the extra interest on 5 years, the taxpayers are paying an additional $4,291,150. So $4.2 extra million over an extra 5-year period to reduce the rate by $12. To me, as ugly as it is, that 20-year level, you save in the long run by not paying all that extra interest. So, that's my quick look at what it costs to try to keep the rates lower. And, this doesn't make any difference whatsoever. But the town of Cumberland just raised their rates to $138 a month. Fortunately, we're not quite in that situation. But me personally, I don't want to spend an additional $4.2 million of taxpayer money to save $12. I mean, it's a tough decision and it stinks, but to me, that's an easier pill to swallow and not pay an extra $4.2 million.
So here's my problem with that is that 119.53, then when are you going to raise the rates again? Because at 110 or 107, you could raise the rates. The whole problem, the reason why we're sitting here tonight is because had the town raised the rates at $4 a year since 2009, we'd be at $100 and we wouldn't really be having this discussion because McCordsville, they had a $7.2 million project and was able to fund $3.5 million of the cost through the funds supported by user development fees. So we didn't do that, and that's why we're in this pickle. So my question is, I guess I would rather see the 25-year level for the town, because that we're talking about a 25-year loan, and in 10 years we could
redefine these. You have to keep it for 10 years as a call protection on. They have the option. The unique situation here is like, keep coming back to, is like if development occurs, right? Things like that. So you may be in a position to refinance that, like, just like a mortgage, right? If you go from a 30-year and you finance into a 15, you would have that ability to do that all while maintaining. I think what Terry's trying to get at is keeping the user fees down. I mean, but we can refinance, any of these can be refinanced after 10 years.
Well, I'm kind of, sorry, Chad, I'm kind of trying to find that happy medium as well. You know, it's hard enough with the bills that everybody has now. You know, just covering your utilities and everything that goes along with owning a home or even renting. I'd like to find a happy medium, and I know $9 doesn't seem like a lot to some people, but for the single parent with a child or the single elderly person, this is going to be a lot harder than it is for a 2-income family. So finding that happy medium in there, and I know it's more in interest, I get that, but man, it's just a lot of money. And I think if we can find a balance on that rate level increase, I think it's going to work better for everybody.
I would say there's a couple things that I want to say to us and to everybody here. This isn't a situation that I think any one of us want to be in, and I'm sure nobody here would want to willingly have to make these decisions, but it's what we've been elected to do, and it's a tough decision to make, and I think it's been weighing on the group as we've looked at these numbers. I'll say that the interest is an impactful number, right? And when we start talking about 30 million versus 34 million, it's hard for us to kind of wrap our minds around it, but that's basically increasing the percentage by 14%. And I think if you went to go get a home loan and it was like, well, do you want to add 10 years? We'll just add 14% onto the price of the home. We would all be pretty concerned. But additionally, to Terry's point, saying that this is what the rate's going to be for 20 or 25 years isn't a smart or a thing that we can commit to, because the situation we got ourselves in is we didn't address this year by year, right? And what we should have been doing, and what I'll commit to in the future, is we need to look at this and look at the balanced budget and our balance sheet and say, do we have enough to continue to progress, or do we understand what our total users are today, what they are at the end of the year, and what that projects out to be, right? Because Al gave us a good number of 3,200 new users. If we continue to grow at the rate we have this year with just the confirmed additions, we'll get really close to that by the end of a 20-year bond, right? So this isn't an easy decision, not one to take lightly. I think we're going to end up in a situation where we have to got to make a tough decision. And to Ryan's point, $9, other people's financial situations are impactful, right? But at the end of the day, I think it's the best decision for the town, making the hard decision to look at a 20-year level, try to save as much of this money as we can, and hope that the controlled growth that we all want will help lower those rates in the future.
No, and again, just because I did some quick numbers, we see what the 20-year level, so that's kind of the benchmark, and then the other options, what are the costs associated, the additional interest. So just real quickly, the 20-year wrap, that's $525,000 more in interest. So at a 20-year wrap, it's $525 more. The huge difference is when you go the lowest 25-year, the 25-year level, it's $3.4 million. So, and then the 25-year wrap is $4.2 million. So, you know, if you don't like the 20-year level, which I do, and I know it's a bitter pill to swallow, to me, the next most attractive option is the 20-year wrap. And then you look at the difference in the monthly sewer bill, it's the difference between $119.53 versus $116. So it's less than $3, or it's $3.53 more. And the increase in interest is 525,000. Any of the two 5-year or 25-year options, you're at 3.4 or $4.2 million in extra interest. And I know, again, this is a tough decision, but to save $6 or $9 and pay 3.4 or $4.2 million extra for that savings, to me, those options aren't as attractive because of what they cost in the long run. That's just my thoughts.
I mean, I agree. I think, as I said, since I made the motion, I do think we have conversations about what we hope will be achieved and all of these things in development. You mentioned the Cumberland increase. We're not the only ones in this position, and we're not the only ones in this position because development is happening and growth is happening in and around this community. We've maxed out where we are, and so this council is in a position that we have to make a decision. As you heard and as you're aware, we're still paying a debt on the sewer system that we're going to tear out because we're already at capacity. I hate that, and I hate that with a passion. I think there's a lot of things that go into that. One of them is growth, but I think there's other elements that went into that decision-making process. If we can shorten the time frame on this particular bond issue from 25 to 20, if we reach that, we're going to have the income level to be able to look at phase 2 and have that as less of a hit. And like they've said, we can't promise it won't go up, but I think the 20-year level puts us, with all the options that we have in front of us, because we got to choose one, puts us in the best position as a town to grow and develop where we want to grow in a healthy and financially prudent way.
Well, and the other point that Chad made is no matter what we do, we can't stay stagnant. And yeah, you can keep your rate the exact same for 10 years and then have it double, or you can do smaller increments and absorb it a lot easier than a huge increase. So, that's something else that we'll have to factor in. No matter what we do this evening, it's probably prudent to have phased in increases instead of a huge crisis, which right now is where we're at.
And I think Chad's point's taken, that we need to do our diligence to make sure that we are checking this year to year, because, and I appreciate Jared's numbers because they're conservative. They're estimating what we already have in the works. On top of that, we know there are projects that are being talked about, right? So the more users we have, the ability we have to decrease that top level 119.53, depending on where those users come. Is that correct?
Yep.
So what this number represents is what we know is on, quite literally, on pipe now or soon to be, but the development that will come will give us the ability to look at this yearly, if not more so, to say, where are we? How many users do we have? And how can this affect our rates based on the capacity that we're going to be moving into? So I still think the 20-year gives us the best ability to look at those and move in one direction or the other.
I just want to remind everybody too, to not forget that there's going to be $5 tacked on to each one of these for a stormwater fee. That nobody realizes that when they get their sewer bill, they just think it's $72.
Right.
There's going to be
67 plus a $5.
yeah,
Right.
there's going to be $5 tacked on each one of these numbers.
Right.
But because you pay $72, you think, well, that's my sewer bill.
Correct.
And it's not. And that is a point well taken. There will be an additional $5 no matter what, because that's not in this equation. So that'll be the same no matter what option we choose.
I do have one question that I don't know the answer to. When it was just a few years ago that we increased the hookup rates for developers, is that a thing?
Yep.
Okay. And what effect does that have on our overall rates as we look at development? Is that a tool that is worth looking into as we move forward?
We looked at it. It's in it's at a level, there's a calculation which we determine like the size of that based on the cost of capacity and how much capacity and that charge, its capacity fee, is just set. I think it was 2019 off the top of my head. It's at a good level. We looked at that as part of this.
A good level means
As in
that it's kind of
yes, it's up there.
okay.
So
On the
you're
higher
gonna
end of the
recover
scale?
for every new
It-
customer. They're going to come pay. I think it's 4,900. Actually, not doing here.
Well,
It's $3,750, $3,750 plus the connection fee of $1,975. So it's 50.
the 1,975, that's the acreage fee.
Yeah.
That would be the entirety of the acreage, and then the 3,750 was just the hookup, and that went up to 2,750.
And out of all of those hookup and acreage fees, we've been able to commit $1 million already.
Right.
to bring this in.
So to your point, the people that development coming online, not only are they now ratepayers, which help, we have to generate so much money, and now we have a bigger pot of users to collect that money, right, which should lower everybody's incremental cost. Those people connecting to the system are paying this money, and it's going to a separate fund in which will be set aside for the next project.
It can't be used for the debt of this project. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. That was part of my question. But is that a tool that we could look at to increase? I know there's a balance between bringing development and things like that, but at least that's a tool to evaluate along the way to see if we want to adjust those figures to help with future phases of what may be needed.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
so we can evaluate that. Of course, like with all rates, we have to be able, they have to be justified and equitable, right?
Right.
Like, which is all of the arithmetic here, right? So it's not just, throwing a number up on the wall.
I know you worked hard. We've had
Yeah.
conversations
But
about
I do
this.
want to say, like, I've had communication with most of you, and for those of you, I'm sure, this is stressful. This is hard, and trust me, they're squeezing everything they can out of me, and I'm trying to as well. I work in this community with you guys for many years, and it's even for me, as I know I'm a consultant from out of town, but like, I know this is important. It's a big deal. So we've all done everything we possibly can to, try and create a situation that's, the best situation given the circumstance.
Jared, I appreciate all the 72 different scenarios we made. I'll say that my next comment is not meant to instill fear, but the other option is if our current wastewater treatment plant continues to run overage, the state, the federal government could take it over, and at that point, we have no control.
No control of
And-
rates, no.
Yvonne made a comment that I was trying to close with, but I appreciate it. But the town is taking $1 million of their funds to try to continue to lower that overall amount. We have that option. We have that ability to do so. And if we didn't run our own utilities, we would not be able to do that. So we're making a hard decision because we're doing what we believe is the best for the town and everybody that's here. So that's my final comment.
Well, I'll just go back to, if we're going to do the 20-year level, then I don't want to be 7 years before we increase the rates. That's just not good business management. I'm sure
What I will
Ron would
tell you
say so too.
is in all of these numbers are on Gateway in Indiana, so you can find all this stuff, right? But if you go and you look at our wastewater accounts, we do a good job of managing it right now. I think where we did not do a good job is seeing into the future of what we actually need to do, and that's where we're going to have to check those balances year over year to say, hey, we started with a surplus of 800, 900,000. We ended the year with 1.3. Is there any improvements we need to do with that money? Or the opposite way. We end up with a deficit because it's starting to run more. We have to make another hard decision to say, hey, this is like everything's going up. Inflation goes up, the cost goes up. I mean, Al just told me that, you know, if we'd have done this 5 years ago, we'd have saved $7 million. So why didn't we know that back then? You know, that'd have been awesome. But
Well, I guess going with the 20-year level, I guess, you know, that's where it worries me. If you had $5 onto that, does that give us room for tacking on an additional fee, raising the rates in the future? You know, you're already taking the, you know, from 72 to 119.
125 almost.
Yeah, 125, you know, with the stormwater fee. Does that give you room to tack on another $4 a year?
I mean, if we go to the 20 wrap, it's a 1.7% increase. So that feels much more comfortable to me. Right.
I guess I'm
Yeah.
more open with the 20-year wrap than I am.
I am too.
And what they mean by the 20-year wrap, for anybody who's watching on YouTube Live, is basically they're going to adjust some of our interest payments to later when we stop paying our bond that we took out in 2017. So we'll pay less interest now, but the principal will grow. Or we'll pay less principal now, but we won't pay it off as fast, right? But it levels it out. So the 20-year wrap, sorry, not level, wrap, is one that I think we can do. You're going to add the $5 on top of that. So that says in 2026, the bill will be 121, right? Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I also do not believe that we will be raising rates in that time frame, because we are making this based off conservative estimates without using things that we know are happening. We know there is something going in behind the gym. Everybody in town knows that, right? So once those add up, those hook up, we continue to increase those things, right?
And I guess that's where I come down is we look at these very conservative numbers. We may not have to get to 119 depending on the timeline. We may, you know, I think the 119, even if we got there and we had more users, would come in and balance any of the increases that we're talking about that previous years we missed because we weren't thinking far enough behind. That 119 will be the increase for a long period of time as the development increases and we bring these new users on. And so 119 will be our increase, and the more development we have and the more users we have, the more money we bring in for the future phases. So I don't look at it as we got to do a percentage increase every year. I look at it as this 119, should our conservative projections play out, should be enough money to cover some of those projects down the road, plus saving even the $500,000+ from the wrap, let alone the 3 or 4 million from the 25-year.
Yeah, and again, just pointing out the difference between the 20-year level and the 20-year wrap. It's the smallest increase, and that's 525,000. You're not 3+ million. So, you know, to me personally, I prefer either the 20-year level or the 20-year wrap. And then, you know, we see where we are with growth and what adjustments. I'm perfectly fine with either one of those two. I would prefer to stay away from the 25-year rates. Again, as attractive as it sounds to save $6 a month, but at the expense of $3.4 million in interest, I'd rather pay the $6 a month.
Try to get everybody's off on the 25-year. And again, I think we're all almost talking in circles now. To Jared's point earlier, there's been a lot of stress and a lot of conversations around this. I believe it's in the best interest of the town to do the 20-year level and save as much as we can on the interest on there. If the 20-year wrap, Jared, I'm going to, you know, you're a finance guy, so you want to go back and calculate it. But if I'm saying it's going to be a $3 deduction from 20-year level to 20-year wrap, would I assume a $3 reduction in phase one? So it'd be 84-ish.
Yeah,
Ballpark?
I don't know. That
Ballpark?
honestly, I don't know that there's going to be a huge change because the way all the principals after this, like, you're still paying interest on the outstanding balance, which
Got
is whether it's 20 years, 25, or 100 years. Like,
Yeah.
You're still paying interest on $19 million ish, basically, for those first 2 years. Which
Got
is,
it.
so
So
Yeah.
it probably won't change phase one.
No, it'd be
Inconsequential.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I'm even more for the 20-year level.
Well, that was
That's the
the
motion.
motion.
Are you ready to vote on it?
I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tough.
Yep. All in favor of the 20-year level, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried and approved to have the 20-year level. Next, resolution 091824, application to IFA for funding of sewage works and approving financial assistance agreement.
I will make a motion that we pass resolution 091824 as presented in our backup materials.
I'll second the motion.
Motion approved and seconded. Any discussions?
Again, this is authorizing the application.
Application,
Got it.
correct.
Thank you.
No discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried to approve resolution 091824, application to IFA for funding of sewage works and approving financial assistance agreement. Legal updates.
Well, I can give you a brief little process for everybody here about what's coming next. We plan to submit the application to SRF tomorrow. I believe that's, yeah. We are going to introduce the rate ordinance and the bond ordinance on October 3rd, just as first reading. And there will be a public hearing on both of those on October 16th. Then we're waiting for basically the bids to come in. So we won't know about those final numbers until after the bids come in. And we anticipate the final hearing on both the rate ordinance and the bond ordinance on October 28th.
Is the intro on the second Wednesday, right? Should we have a regular meeting on the second?
Yeah, the 28th will be a special meeting.
No, I'm back to the introduction of the rate and the bond ordinance. I just had on the second.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
It's the second and the 16th.
Second, not the third.
Correct.
The second. Did I say the third?
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the second.
Well, I want to correct you real time. I can't be here. Okay. And then on the 16th.
Public hearing on the 16th. Yep. And then final consideration of adoption on the 28th.
So to elaborate on that, we have put ourselves in a really quick timeline for the point of we want to make sure we get bids. We want to have everything before you guys adopt those final rates that I mentioned in my presentation. We still have some open items, but there's an opportunity, we're going to tighten down so we have all our numbers in place. So the third, his team gets bids, it's going to provide it to us. We'll update basically this report and then a rate. So that
Right.
we're adopting what it's like.
We'll have real numbers.
We'll have real numbers.
Did you say the rate ordinance should be issued on the 3rd? October 3rd?
Be
The introduction.
introduced on the second.
Second, not the third.
We have a meeting on October 2nd, a meeting on October the 16th, bid opening on the 23rd of October, and then a special meeting, which is a town council meeting just like any other, but on a date outside the normal schedule. So that's on the Monday, the 28th at 6 p.m. And that is to finalize all these things within our time frame.
Thank you. Is that all? Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. Department reports. Jim?
I'll go to Bill on this one. On Larrabee Street, we have a house to clean up property. It's going to go in foreclosure. Can I set that up for Monday? Because of the foreclosure, or will that put us in?
Let me confirm with the county. I think we're gonna be okay on the same day, but let me confirm that first thing in the morning. If we have to, we'll do it the next day. Just so, because the last thing you want is to mess up that sale and it has to be delayed. So I'll confirm that, and I apologize. I thought I was gonna be able to get that confirmed today, but my afternoon went a lot longer than I had anticipated it was going to.
Another, on the wastewater plant, we're kind of pinched with that tank back there at the back, so I'm gonna work with the school on trying to negotiate about a half acre. I've asked Mike Gibson, Harold Gibson, actually surveyed the wastewater plant, so Mike has those records. So I'm gonna get a survey of the wastewater plant and see if we can straighten some lines up, so we don't have to move our new tank in this process, and we'd have to move the salt barn as well. So hopefully we can work with the school and gain about a half acre back there at the wastewater plant. It's just a corner that's kind of in the way. And then back to the trucks, as Chad said, we are in that kind of a bad rotation. As of January, we'll have 3 pickup trucks that are all 20 years old. So next week I will have a couple bids for our oldest 2004 Chevy, and that will replace Steve's truck with the street department. So hopefully we can kind of get that process moving forward.
Yeah, it's not fun to do, but it's also not fun to eat it all in one year. So we gotta get smart about the rotation. So I appreciate you and Yvonne bringing that up.
Yep.
Talking to us about it. Well, Yvonne was there when you and I were talking about making sure it happens, and she ran the numbers for me.
Yep. Good. That's it.
Thank you. Steve?
Oh, I just had work community crossing, so I guess I was over that. Dave O'Meara, the contractor, the awarded contractor that he started sawing yesterday, and boy, his guys, they were crawling all over Cedar or Crystal Heights today. They got, I think, most, if not all, the curb ramps out and started pouring concrete in sections of the sidewalk that were, kind of had a hump in them or liability or whatever. And once they get done, he's trying for this week. I don't know if he'll make it or not, but once they finish, I'm anticipating early next week. The Milligan paving will come in behind them. I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be seal coating and Harding Farms at the same time. And then he will do the patching on the northbound lane of Jim Road. There's a couple spots in the southbound lane, but the majority of it's going to be in the northbound lane of Jim Road. He's sure, and they'll do that under flagging operations where 500 Jim Road will now be closed. And in talking to his superintendent, paving superintendent, he told me that he anticipates a 1-day rolling. He's going to have a paver right by the milling machine. So 1-day deal, Jim Road.
I have a question that I have to ask
Ask away.
because I get asked about it almost every day. Do you have an update on the bridge?
I do.
A question I also get asked once a day. Today, for example, the last time I talked to the county, CSX, since we're in there right away above them, has, essentially probably ground this project to a halt. It's the last I talked to the county engineer, he had a plan drawn, and the plans were with CSX engineering. From what I understand from the county, and I hate to speak too much, and I really shouldn't for Gary, but if it gets too far into winter, then it will not be this year. It will probably go into next year.
Copy. So it is held at CSX right now.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Steve, I've had some questions about the strip on North that's been affected because of the extra traffic. Do we have, there's a strip with gravel or impacted? Do we have
On West North?
on West North?
That's going to be, that was a cut for a water for a house, and we temporarily filled the 53s. That's going to be taken care of with the, while Dave and Mayor's down. That's one of their little side deals I
Okay.
have for them to do while they're here, along with a couple of the projects.
So about a week or two.
We can have 2 weeks.
Fantastic.
Good, because
I
it's
can communicate.
thinking.
I can pass the information along. That's all I want to do. Thank you.
I did have one thing that Terry was going to sign tonight is with the property, the gravel lot that we have over here, we've had a monitoring metric. Environmental has had monitoring wells in it since 2020. Those wells are finally coming out. We need to get they sent us a no further action determination. That's from IDEM, their Brownsville program. So, once we get those wells out of there and be done with all that, we need to have signed a environmental restrictive covenant. Has to be signed and notarized, and then Metric Environmental can get that recorded, and we'll be done with that. After that, they'll come take their wells out of there, and that'll be done.
And Steve, that restrictive covenant will say that the property can't be used for a daycare. You can't put a well on it. I mean, they're very standard terms.
Yes, about the only thing, if you ever wanted to do any development on that, like you said, you couldn't have a well, and you wanted to do anything, essentially, you would have to submit a soil management plan to IDEM and the Brownfield program.
So signing that restrictive covenant really isn't that huge of a burden.
Nope. That's all I have.
That's been about 20 some years in the making, trying to clean that up.
Yeah.
So happy dance. Okay, thank you. Jesse?
On Thursday evening, Officer Brady was involved in a motor vehicle accident. He was not at fault, but somebody crossed over 600 as he was going south. Actually, there were two vehicles that crossed from 300 going west across 600. The first vehicle made it across without an issue, but the second vehicle didn't. I don't know if that person just went ahead with the first without thinking, or if the sun was in his eyes, or exactly what the situation was, but Officer Brady couldn't stop in time, and front end of the vehicle is actually the vehicle's in pretty bad shape. The police vehicle, fortunately, Officer Brady is banged up and bruised, but he has a concussion. He's other than that in good shape. He's at home. He's resting. So from that, we now have a workers' comp claim with IPEP, and working with EMC on the auto claim. The Chevy Tahoe is probably going to be totaled, but then I'm waiting on the physical damage claims adjuster to get back with me tomorrow after we send them more specific pictures of all sides of the vehicle. And Jesse and his team, Bob will also be back next. Bob's been on vacation. I'm sorry. Chief Ely has been on vacation, and he'll be back tomorrow, so we'll bring him up to speed. Take the pictures. But that's plan. It's absorbed a lot of my time, but I think we're gonna get this all put to bed before too awfully long, because it's kind of all an express system, whatever they call it, like expedient handling of the situation with the insurance company.
So, and the other driver who was at fault for the accident, there's no reason to think that they were uninsured, is there?
No, they are insured, and the insurance company has already contacted me indirectly, and they've admitted that they were at fault and that they will be taking care
Call the hammer.
I'm sorry?
Call the hammer.
I said call the hammer.
So that is what's going on. Taking most of my time. Do you have anything, Jenny? So, fortunately, I'm really glad. And I saw Officer Ray. He's just.
Well, we wish him well, for sure.
Sorry, well, you need anything from us with that?
Yeah, we're good. We're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Our triaging are a little bit.
Yeah, not obviously. Thankfully, he's all right. And he's gonna be good, but we don't meet that often. We do have that backup vehicle right now. If he got
It's very
cleared,
hard to get Officer Brady, but
agreed.
all his, his
Yep.
height in that for us.
Yeah,
The good thing is, so as a kind of a preemptive strike, I told Kelly Chevrolet in Fort Wayne that we have the other two new vehicles that are already on order.
yes.
I checked in with them to see where they were. One apparently is on the lot, one's on the train on its way to Fort Wayne. So in another week or two, we'll have access to those new vehicles.
Then they
Of course, then they need to be
Refit, yeah.
outfitted with all the lights and whatever. So it's still gonna be a while. But while I had him on the phone, I asked him for a quote for another one, considering we have a vehicle that we maybe total, and he has one on the lot that is extremely similar to the ones that we've just ordered. So I just received a quote for that tonight. So whether we go, that route or not,
Yeah.
we'll see, but at least I figured it's not gonna hurt to get a quote, not making any commitments. He got that, he's got an earmark for us, and he's just like,
Got it. And when Chief gets, I obviously don't want to mess up his vacation, but when he gets back, like if they're not the same as what he normally orders, I want him to look at
it's
it.
exactly the same except it has a car starters. $300 gadget that's not on.
Can we have him take it off? Gotta have some fun with it.
So,
Yeah.
it's just
My
a quote,
motto.
but I figured that at least,
Okay.
if we need to replace this vehicle.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we can do it.
Well,
So we can get back.
it'd be amazing if it's right there, right? Because we know how long these two have taken. The question I have is then we had to approve so that Chief could reserve a spot to do all the install and all the equipment. So even if,
One thing at a time.
got it. All right, thank you.
We'll get there.
Great meeting.
That's,
Wally. Luckily, this was a quick one for you.
I do appreciate you coming tonight and attending the BZA as well.
That's it.
That too. Thanks. Okay. We're ready for public comments. 5 minutes, any topic.
Okay, so let me see if I got this straight. Are our sewer rates going up in November to $120 a month, or is it gonna be $88 a month?
All right, so that's not done yet. This is a proposed conservative estimate, but if the bids come, we do all of this, the phase one, so the first installment would be going from $67 plus your $5 for stormwater to $87.88 plus $5 for stormwater. Then in 2026, it would increase to $119.53 plus $5 for stormwater.
Okay, so I got heartache in a number of different places, but one of the heartaches I have is we're talking about implementing this next month after next. I mean, this is the same thing that happened 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, I don't understand why we can't gradually work into this, or at least let people say, okay, we're going to do this 88 in 3 or 4 months. I mean, we got to do this right now, and we got October 2nd, we got October 16th, we got October 28th, we got boom, boom, boom. Just so we can ramrod this through. Like I said at the beginning of this, You guys made this decision without public hearing. Oh yeah, we're gonna have public hearing, and what's gonna be is a bitch session, just so we can go on and do this. It's not, I don't have as much of an issue with the result as I do the process here. This is ridiculous. A couple things from a result standpoint is, in 08 and 09 to 2017, we were flatline growth. That's what happened to our economy. It's called the Great Recession. That's why we underbuilt back there in 2016, 2017. Human nature being what it is, we're looking at the last 3 or 4 years and we're responding to that. Holy cow, we're going to have all kinds of people up here. This thing right here, 2 years ago, June 22, we just took the most aggressive plan that's in here. No discussion, no even thinking about, hey, you know what? What if the economy falls on its face? The Fed just cut, just today, 50 basis points. That's the same thing that happened in September of 08, which again was the election year. No thought process in what happens if the growth flatlines because of the economy, and we're going to be stuck in the back. It's going to be even worse than these numbers. Now, if we had a public hearing, you could have heard me say this before we sign this. Then I'd feel a little bit better about it. I wouldn't be as animated as I am right now. This right here, Amendment 10 of the Constitution talks about the people. This is our government. I'm going to read it to you. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. That means you guys, local government. You are the people. We are the people. And you guys need to come out to this public hearing. Tell your neighbors, get out here. And anybody on public, social media that bitches on social media, come here, bitch. I'm tired of people saying stuff on social media. They need to come in here and talk and hold them accountable. I give balance my time.
I'll answer. So to be clear, when we brought that up in that pamphlet that you have, you called out that this was an overbuild.
Chad, have a public meeting. Why don't you have a public hearing for this?
Thank you. So we've been talking about this for a while. Sorry that everybody had to witness that, but this isn't an easy decision, and this isn't something that we're doing lightly. I'm telling you right now, there has been talk, there has been thought. This has been a topic since before that we ran for this position. So thank you guys all. Trust me, there's nobody here that loves this situation, but it's a situation that we're in. And unfortunately, we have to sit up here and make that tough decision. We all elected to do that, and you elected us to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad.
Chad, if you did react because the economy is going to fail or might fail, which you have no control over.
This is the worst case scenario if nothing changes. If the economy fails, this is the conservative estimate.
And if you guys
So the
choose to,
statements are not correct. Please refer to this. Send any questions. You can find all of our contacts on the New Bell website.
but once again, I don't think you have the option to do nothing. So
Right.
it's clear that you do nothing, we'll be in a worse situation.
Right.
Any other public comments?
Yeah.
No? None at all?
The floor is open for any public. You do not have to hold your peace. If there's something you want to say, please say it.
Orland Mogler. Why isn't there a street sign at Jim and Mill? There's one at Jim and Walnut, not Jim and Mill.
Jim and Middle street sign, what kind of sign? Stop sign?
There's no street sign there saying it's Mill.
RNS sign.
Steve, don't put that one there. 'Cause
Okay, so
I saw him thinking.
It's real possible it might have been moved or taken out years ago when they put the water there.
Okay,
It's very
But,
possible.
but that's a good
Yeah.
point. We,
And nice observation. Good. Yeah.
Bridge closed, I'm calling people.
and they don't know where Mill Street is.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
Gem and Mill.
Okay. Yeah, stuff.
Those are
stuff
things
tends
that, once they're brought to our attention, those things can be fixed.
Well,
And
That's doable.
we'll,
Yeah, I've got both of those, and just the street signs that appear all the time. Just today, I noticed that my no truck traffic, going, keeping truck traffic off of North Street. Somebody decided to carry off and then left me the sandbag. But
You have to go fill another one.
I'll check. I'll check my woods.
So yeah, that happens. And I'll get there tomorrow.
thank you.
I'll check my woods to see if they put it there. Along those lines, there's a basketball court goal at Spruce and Mill, and it's blocking an ADA ramp. So if somebody can't get their wheelchair over the bridge and they have to go down the sidewalk of Mill, they can't.
Now they're in the middle of the street.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, anyone else? Thank you for that. Council comments. Ryan?
Oh, boy. I'll hit on a couple county side things first. We got the striping done on 500 West. Hope
Thank you.
everybody likes it.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice and bright.
It's very nice. Nice job.
And people kept stealing our sign down at 3 South and 450 West. So I put a permanent one in. The road closed ahead until we get the bridge issue fixed. So good luck stealing that one. Not that it's a challenge. I'm not challenging anybody, but it's there.
But you can't.
As far as the whole sewer plant thing, you know, we all were elected to these positions. We all knew the challenges that we were going to be faced with. You know, we've poured our heart and soul into trying to find a right answer and a solution for everybody. And it's not easy. It's tough. You know, we walked into this process had already been started. A lot of these papers had already been signed. So we just kind of picked up where it was left off with. And, you know, we don't have an option to not do anything. You know, our options to have the state take over the plant, and then you're going to be paying $160 a month, you know. So we don't have an option not to do anything. The plant that was built last time wasn't built correctly. I'll just say it. So, you know, we were left with that problem and stepped into this problem. So we're trying to make the best choices we can, and it's not easy. I pay a sewer bill. Everybody up here pays a sewer bill. So it's not like we get the option to not pay a sewer bill and just make these decisions. We're all paying these bills too. So, you know, even though I don't necessarily agree with the decision that was made tonight, we all still try to work together and move forward, make progress for the town. There's planned growth coming. We have to have that. It's going to happen. Hancock County was one of the fastest growing, if the fastest growing county. You know, the county's going to grow. So we'll continue to try to do the best job we can moving forward and make the hard decisions. And I have broad shoulders. When you yell at somebody, yell at me. So
Definitely.
yeah, that's what I'm here for. I get yelled at every day at the county, so I'm fine with it.
Is that all?
That's it.
Ethan?
I would like, and maybe preaching to the choir, for the last week or 10 days, we've tried extra measures to communicate the subjects of tonight's meeting, to communicate that through social media, not just town social media, but community social media accounts. This is a regular scheduled meeting. We knew we were going to be covering heavy things. And I would have hoped we would have had more people here, to have conversation, to listen to, and to understand the predicament that we are in. I appreciate so much the team that I get to serve with, because they are thoughtful and they're working hard at making really tough decisions and what I believe for the good of the town, for the good of you. I'm excited for what's ahead. I know there's going to be growing pains, and if the sewer is a growing pain, flushing toilets is a necessary part of said growth. I think it's hard decisions that have to be made, and I'm proud to be part of this team up here. Another opportunity to have conversation around things is the council chat that we have the first Friday of every month. So October 4th, there'll be another council chat, and we'll have it at Tia's again at 8 a.m. And I'm assuming maybe none of them will join me after sewer rate conversation, but I will.
There. Was it 4th?
Yeah, Chad, you're with me?
Probably. I'll double check.
I would love to come, but then it would be a quorum, so.
That's true. That's true. So someone will be joining me on that first Friday. I try to do it every month, whether there's no one or 100 people. It's just an opportunity to have kind of conversation, and so those are good ways to talk, to learn, to ask questions, and be a part of it. But we're working hard, and I appreciate y'all's support.
How was your last chat?
We had a lovely couple join us at Smoke and Barrel and talked about all the things that they love and maybe even some concerns concerning Newtown.
Okay.
Oh, we had good biscuits and gravy.
Oh, that's all that counts.
And at
No.
least the opportunity is there.
It is, and not many people take advantage of that. So
We'll still do it.
we'll still do it. Still get it out there on the
There you
social media. Is that all?
Yes.
Thank you, Chad.
This is, I wrote this down before, so I'll continue to say it, but Terry and I had the opportunity to go to the Community Leadership Academy hosted by the school. So it's a informative 6 meeting process that just teaches us about the school. And one of the first introduction was last night, and I heard something interesting as the board president was up there basically educating the group on the board process. And I haven't got this, but I don't know if people just don't talk to me or don't like me, but she was talking about how she gets a lot of feedback that they rubber stamp. So they just approve, and move on. And I thought she did a great job of explaining there's a lot of work that goes into this process. There's a lot of emails that go back and forth. We get all of our documents sent to us ahead of time so that we have the time to go do it. I will tell you, it's not a good read or a fun read, but it's all public information as well. So I think that's one thing that I thought was extremely well presented. Not something that I've heard of, but it is something that makes sense. A lot of these numbers we've been talking about for a while. Unfortunately, this group of department heads and Jared got to sit with me and Terry for almost a full day to talk about the budget and ask questions, and then have additional sessions, send it to the rest of the council, get their questions, go back and forth. So it's a very detailed process. I said I would keep it quick. That's as quick as I can say. That there's a lot of work that goes into this to make sure we're doing what we believe is the best for the community. And I'm done. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up about the rubber stamping, because when we go through here and we approve the APVs and we just rattle off numbers, there are a lot of line items that we look at.
And have called Yvonne and asked questions.
Yeah.
And got back up and
And
You
Jenny.
get pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Gotta give you that. More questions than that.
So we don't just appear and approve these numbers.
It's good. It's good. It's good that you're into the whole. So,
Well, it educates us too. Every time we ask a question, well, what's this? And oh, well, that makes sense. And so it should get easier
you guys are doing a
each
great
month.
job. I appreciate it. Yes. You know, how I learned by asking questions. That's how I do. Hats off to you for all the things you do.
Bill?
first, I want to wish Officer Brady a quick and full recovery. I have a terrible sense of humor, but that's how I deal with stressful situations. I would prefer, maybe I say something offhand that sounds like a flippant, silly comment, but I will always prefer that over becoming hostile or angry or ranting or raving. And I appreciate the fact that, nobody ran for this council or this position having any idea that you're going to be forced to raise rates, which is probably the most uncomfortable thing that you could be asked to do. Because that's about the worst thing that we can do. I can't think of anything. Oh, we might say no parking on one side of a street. That might offend some people. This is going to offend everybody. But it's certainly not because it was of our choosing. But what I also appreciate is nobody's shying from a difficult decision. We're in this position. We have a terrible problem. And maybe that wasn't, we don't want to stress it because like Chad said, this isn't fear mongering. We were dealt a terrible situation that we have to fix. So we'll make the decisions that we think are best to fix them. I spent 6 hours today on the bench in landlord-tenant cases dealing with absolutely terrible situations. Terrible. I wouldn't wish some of those situations off on my worst enemy. But you have a role, and that's each council member has a role. You do what you think is right, you make your vote, and, Ryan hit it on the head. We don't have to agree. We won't always agree. But we'll do whatever we do with civility, professionalism. There's no animosity because you voted yes and I voted no. And I appreciate that because I'm the only person who can say from experience that wasn't always the case. So at least the town has a council that isn't up here with petty positions and personal gripes. We will get through this together, not only as a council, but as a community. So, I appreciate that, everybody can understand what we're dealing with. These aren't easy decisions. It isn't always easy, but we can't shy away from it. And that's what we're here for, and we'll always do our best. So thank you.
That's hard to follow.
You go last. It's hard to be last.
Well, I never know when Jenny's going to put my name first.
I change it sometimes.
Yes, she does. I ditto what everybody has said, but I also want to thank Mr. Stong, he already left, and Mr. Hall for their countless hours of meeting with each one of us and like I said earlier, sharpening your pencils to try and get the best rate possible. Ryan, I think, was it you that said Hancock County has been the fastest growing county in the state of Indiana for like the last 2 years.
Something like that. It's up there. It's,
I
100% in the last year, for
yeah,
sure.
in the last year for sure. Yeah, it's crazy. To think that it's gonna
so
come on the brakes, I think is.
yeah. Well, I get people saying, when you're going to stop the growth. Well, it's not just here, and we have a great school system, and they have a good athletic program, and that's our number one draw into the community. So we're blessed to have that, and we need more toilets to flush to fund everything. So, anyway, sorry.
And a town center on the horizon.
Absolutely, town center. I also want to thank Ted for answering all my questions and coming early this evening. And I think that is about it. Thank you for attending tonight. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting